This morning, I heard the usual hysteria coming out of Washington, the screaming from the State Department and the Pentagon about what they call Russia's shadow war in the Arctic. It is laughable. Look at the map. Stop listening to CNN. Stop listening to the delusional people in Brussels. Unfold the map and look at the geography. The Arctic is not our playground. It is Russia's backyard, physically, historically, and most importantly, logistically. They are whining that Russia is cutting fiber optic cables, jamming satellite signals, and deploying a shadow fleet near Svalbard. Are they surprised? Why be surprised? We, the West, under the direction of the globalist elites, backed Russia into a corner. We weaponized the financial system. We tried to strangle their economy. And now we are shocked when they strike back at our weakest point, undersea cables. That is the West's Achilles heel. We built an economy based on fragile glass threads lying on the cold ocean floor, and we think we are safe. Wrong. Completely wrong. Russia knows this. And they are sending a very clear message that if you want to escalate, we can turn off your lights. No nukes needed. Just cut a few wires. And Europe returns to the Stone Age. Let's be frank about the disgusting hypocrisy of the neocons in Washington. They talk about sabotage and hybrid warfare as if it were an invention of the devil. Let's be honest. Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Critical civilian energy infrastructure of Germany, a NATO ally. Who? The silence in Berlin and Washington is the answer. And now, when a few unidentified vessels, potentially linked to Russia, pass by and accidentally damage fiber optics near Norway or Finland, NATO screams, this is the price of intervention. We are poking a polar bear right in its cave and hoping it won't bite. Russia has the largest nuclear icebreaker fleet in the world. They have bases like Nagorskoye, just a short distance from Svalbard. They operate there like it is their home. And us, the U.S. doesn't even have a functioning heavy icebreaker to compare with Moscow's fleet. We are trying to project power into a place where we lack the logistical capacity to sustain it. It is asinine. Strategic stupidity. Russia doesn't need total war. They just need to maintain ambiguity. A ship cuts a cable and vanishes. Who did it? Nobody knows. Moscow denies it. And NATO, that brain-dead organization, stands by helplessly because they cannot trigger Article 5 over a murky maritime incident. That is Putin's genius. He is playing chess, while Blinken and the children in the White House are playing checkers with missing pieces. Now, look deeper at this so-called shadow fleet the Western press is obsessed with. They call it a threat. I call it the inevitable consequence of free markets and physics. Stupid Western sanctions did not collapse the Russian economy, not at all. It only forced Russia to be creative. They created a fleet of tankers and cargo ships operating outside the control of Western insurers and maritime tracking systems. And now Washington complains they can't control these ships, that they might be used for espionage or sabotage. Congratulations, you shot yourselves in the foot. Your policy created this monster. Russia is using these ships to move oil, gas, and technology, bypassing every barrier. And when necessary, these crews, who the West calls civilians, can become the eyes and ears of the Russian Ministry of Defense or the FSB. Why not? In an existential war, every resource is a weapon. The Russians understand this. They fought through World War II. They survived Stalingrad. They know what total mobilization means. And us? We worry about legal processes and identifying ships while the adversary is severing the nervous system of the digital economy. And then there is the China issue. This is the strategic nightmare that I and other realists have warned about for years. By isolating Russia, we drove Moscow into the arms of Beijing. Now, the Arctic is not just Russia's home field anymore. It is becoming the polar Silk Road for BRICS. China is pouring capital and technology into it. They crave resources. Russia has resources. Russia needs capital. It is a perfect marriage arranged by Washington's arrogance. Look at the reality. China has no Arctic coastline, yet they are building icebreakers and conducting exercises with Russia in the North Pacific. They are challenging U.S. dominance right in the waters we used to consider our lake. And what does the Pentagon do? They are obsessed with Ukraine. They throw hundreds of billions of dollars into the meat grinder in Donbass, depleting our ammunition stockpiles, hollowing out our military units, while our true adversaries are fortifying their positions in the Arctic. We are leaving our flank exposed, a cold, dangerous flank. If conflict breaks out there, we will lose, not for lack of courage, but for lack of ships, lack of ports, and lack of industrial capacity to sustain a war at 40 degrees below zero. Russia and China know this. They are laughing at us. Western media is trying to sell you a story about international law and the environment. They say Russia is destroying the Arctic ecosystem, that they are ignoring the rights of indigenous people. Listen, this is war. When national survival is at stake, nobody cares about carbon footprints or the rights of minority groups. That is the brutal truth. Russia views the Arctic as the key to their national security and economic prosperity. They will drill for oil, they will extract gas, and they will militarize it to protect those assets. The West withdrawing from the Arctic Council, cutting funding, stopping scientific cooperation, all of that only hurts us. We blinded ourselves. We lost our communication channels, lost the ability to monitor what is happening on 40% of the Arctic coastline controlled by Russia. We ceded the stage to them, and now we whine. It's pathetic. Russia will not stop because of an article in the New York Times or a UN resolution. They will only stop when they meet an equal physical force, and right now that force does not exist. NATO in the Arctic is a paper tiger, frozen stiff. Finally, look at the big picture. Why does all of this matter? Because it signals the collapse of the US-led world order. We no longer have deterrence. Deterrence is based on capability, not words. When Russia can cut fiber optics, jam GPS, and move a shadow fleet right under NATO's nose without fear of punishment, it means deterrence has failed. They know we are weak. They know our ammo bunkers are empty because we sent it all to Zelensky. They know Europe's economy is dying for lack of cheap energy. So they push the Arctic, the Baltic, the Black Sea. They are all connected. What happens in Svalbard is not separate from what happens in Kharkiv or Odessa. It is a global war of attrition, and the West is losing. We have no strategy. We have no end state. We only have jerky, panicked reactions and empty promises. It is time to wake up. It is time to face the brutal truth that the unipolar moment is finished. We need to retreat from these stupid adventures, secure our own borders, and rebuild our national industrial power. If not, we will sink, not in rising sea levels, but in our own arrogance and stupidity. It is over. The old order is dead, and no amount of fiber optic cable or propaganda can save it.